Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back in another video. It's a follow-on from my last video, really. Anyway, I've been procrastinating about making this video for quite a while, but I didn't want it to be too cringeworthy, so I hope it's not too cringeworthy. If you do have any comments or questions or anything like that, please feel free to post them in the comment section or whatever in the chat, so maybe I can try and answer them or whatever, as long as they're polite questions, I guess. So I hope someone out there will ask some questions or whatever, and I'd love to know what you think about football. And as I mentioned in my last video, I would love to get people who are not even interested in football into football somehow. So I'd love to find ways to promote football, and I'd love to share ideas and listen to other people's ideas, share ideas with other people and listen to their ideas. And as I say, I'd love to get more younger people and even women and girls into football and that sort of thing. When it comes to football, I mainly follow the men's team, really. So the women's football doesn't affect me or interest me quite as much, I've got to admit. But I do watch it a little bit, but not that much, not as much as the men's game and that sort of thing. It doesn't really interest me or intrigue me or affect me as much. Like if Italian team loses or Celtic loses, then I get really affected by it. But in the women's football, I don't really get as affected quite as much, or as I say, find it quite as intriguing or interesting or whatnot. But yeah, I still think it's quite good that more people get into football, as many people as possible get interested in football, including like women and girls following the men's team as well, and taking interest in football. The more people get into football, I think the better, and especially in Italy and amongst Celtic fans, I think. I'd love to encourage people to support Italian football and Celtic, and more people practice in Italy and in Glasgow, across Scotland, or Celtic fans practice. Hopefully, the better they'll become, and including in Italy's case for the national team. But yeah, I was trying to think about some things to talk about football, which I could add to my last video. But sorry for my repetitiveness, but I was thinking like an aim or an objective that I have for Italian football, which will probably take a while. I was thinking, even if we do get investment, I say we as a fan do get investment into Italian football, I think it would take a while for Italian teams to do well or dominate like English and Spanish teams have been doing. So that does worry me a bit. I think like maybe Spanish or English teams will win even more by that time. And my dilemma about Spain, as I mentioned briefly in my last video, is that because I look Spanish as well, or Italian perhaps, I think, like Mediterranean, and they're quite close by, I think, and they have a lot in common. I do kind of have a soft spot for Spain as well, and especially when it comes to, or at least in football, like the Mediterranean team generally, as well as France. But in club team football, they are, along with England, our main rivals. So it's a bit of a dilemma, because on the one hand, if I support their teams, they are Italian football's competitors, Serie A's competitors. Say the EPL, English Premier League, and La Liga in Spain are our main competitors. And so I thought if I could fundraise for football, mainly I would fundraise, say, for Italian football and Celtic, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I hope every Friday, if I can, I will cover these sorts of videos. And on Saturdays and Sundays, I'll cover like call them soccer instead, because of my alliteration and patterns and things like that, which will hopefully intrigue more of the American audience. But yeah, I'd love to hear your suggestions about how we can get more people into football, or what you think about football generally, or what your favourite teams are, things like that. So it would be interesting to see if I get people watching my videos, hopefully, from different teams. But yeah, especially love to hear from Italian fans and Celtic fans, but even other fans like Real Madrid, Barcelona, or any football fans generally, or people who don't even like football, saying what they think about football or why you don't like it, or that sort of thing. Two recent bits of news that I was thinking that I could cover. I hope you can hear me, by the way. My brother's decided to. But one is about like when Rangers were playing, arch rivals, Celtics arch rivals, when Rangers were playing as a pro British club, and all that. When they went to I can't remember which country they were playing in, but I think it was at home. Sorry, they were playing in Glasgow when they played against Napoli, which I doubly wanted Napoli to win as a fan of Italian football and Celtic. They were told not to do like any singing the anthem or anything like that, anything political or whatever. But they actually defied that request, and they even like threw things at the Napoli fans apparently, and all the players, I mean, and even fought with the police and things like that. So I don't know if they're going to get in trouble with UEFA, obviously football, European football's governing body, or even FIFA, but I don't think FIFA will get involved. But as it's not really their jurisdiction, or they don't really run the European football as much. Anyway, so yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they get fined, especially for crowd trouble, failing to control their fans, and like defying UEFA's rules. Although some people say it was a special circumstance because the Queen passed away and things like that. And on that note, with Celtic, that bit of news is that Celtic fans were sort of had a banner saying "F the Crown," which I don't quite agree with. Even though I'm a Celtic fan, I think it was a bit crass and not as classless as much class as I think we should show decorum and all that. But even though I'm a Republican and a Celtic fan, and one of the reasons why I'm a Celtic fan is because I'm a Republican, but I thought it was a bit, considering the Queen just died as well, I think, and with the profanity as well. But if the Queen hadn't died and it was just a regular thing, I think it would be okay. But because the Queen had just died, I thought the timing was really bad, and a bit out of order, really. So I disagree with that, and I think many Celtic fans, I'd love to hear from Celtic fans, like, what you think about that, or again, football fans generally. Even Rangers fans, if they want to comment, or disagree or whatever, or just put your views forward if you're watching. But yeah, I disagree with that. But it looks like the club might get a fine. And I was thinking, as an idea, that I was thinking that instead of showing that sort of sign or anything political like that is controversial in a way which, obviously, by polarizing, or whatever you call it, polarizing opinion or whatever. Not the best with the command of language, but anyway, yeah, as you can probably tell. But I think that instead they should show banners and signs about things like the charitable work the club does, the foundation, reasons to support the club, some of the good things the club's done, like to raise funds for the homeless, and some of the things the club could do, like the foundation, to raise funds to help with the cost of living crisis and the Horn of Africa and Pakistan floods and things like that, like what we could do as a club to help those sorts of things. So yeah, I was thinking that would be pretty cool. I think I moved on from point to point again, but with my dyslexic mind, jumping from point to point. I did want to cover this in October because it's Dyslexia Awareness Month, sorry, and Black History Month as well, in the UK. But I was thinking, when I talk about dyslexic billionaires or neurodiverse billionaires now and that sort of thing, I was thinking it'd be interesting to see dyslexic people donating to Italian football teams or owning shares in Italian football teams to showcase what we can do, like what we have achieved and things like that. So I thought I'd mention that point while I remember it, and hopefully in October I'll cover it in more detail. But yeah, I'd love to see as much investment into Italian football and Celtic as possible. And maybe by like 2025, or if I'm really dreaming, maybe by next year, like 2020, the 2022 to 2023 or 2023 to 2024 season, I would love to see, like, maybe it'll take a bit longer than that, but if I'm really dreaming, I'll say as soon as possible, maybe by 2025 or 2026, maybe it'll take a bit longer than that even, but if it ever does happen. But I would love to see, possibly within the next 5 years or so, I would love to see, again, as soon as possible, preferably if it could happen this year, I would love it to happen this year, but I doubt very much, considering how Italian teams have been doing in Europe. But I would love to see an Italian team in the final of the Europa League, possibly as the Conference League, possibly the Europa League, and even the Champions League, like possibly at least like 1, 2, or even all 3 of those things, and possibly to see the finalists of both the finalists of, say, those competitions, like the Conference League, Europa League, and the Champions League, to be Italian teams. So I'd love to see as many of them as possible get to the final and winning as many trophies as possible. And I thought, imagine if one day, what if one day both finalists in all 3 competitions, so effectively all 6 finalists were Italian teams. I think that'd be pretty awesome. Can't really see it happening. And one thing I'm worried about is that I know it's a first world problem, but I was thinking, even if we do get investment, we as an Italian fan, I'll say, even if Italian football does get investment, Serie A teams and all that, and brings in the best managers and coaches, like, I'm sure it would take a while. Like Man City, even though they've had loads of investment, they're probably going to be, this year is probably going to be their year, but they haven't won the Champions League yet, much less the World Club Cup. I now said that they're probably going to do that and the Super Cup, but I'd love to see it be an Italian team somehow. Like we can get Haaland and Mbappe and players like that in the next transfer window. But yeah, so as I say, I hope to cover more on each Friday as much as possible. And I am out. Peace and love.